Hi guys, Ollie here from On Your Game Physiotherapy. Today I'm going to be talking to you about what exercise does to the brain. I'm going to give it a few seconds just to see if anyone wants to join in, and then I'll get started. Cool, okay, cool. So as I said, today we're going to be going over what exercise does to the brain, talking about how we use exercise beneficially, not just within clinic, but also how we should be using it outside and just in day-to-day life. And the main reason, as I'm sure you can guess, is to do with stress. So I'm going to give you guys a quick breakdown of stress first, what it is and why exercise is good for reducing stress. In turn improving our brain function, obviously. So stress is an inevitable part of life, everyone gets it. In a recent study performed by YouGov, they found that 7 out of 10 adults in the UK say they experience stress or anxiety daily, and most say it interferes at least moderately with their lives. A study done in 2018 found that more people reported physical and emotional symptoms due to stress than they did in 2017. This is the most recent one I could find. It's 2023 now, and I'm sure that stress has got even higher due to COVID, cost of living. So I know everyone deals with stress, and it's pretty much impossible to not have any stress. It's very unavoidable, but it's things we can do to try and reduce those symptoms of stress. And one of those is aerobic exercise. So in another study performed by YouGov, some 14% of people said they make use of regular exercise to cope with stress, which is absolutely fantastic, but we want to get that even higher. As healthcare professionals, we always recommend some form of exercise, whether that be walking, running, yoga. For stress, it's better to perform aerobic forms of exercise, which I'll get into. But first, what is stress? What is stress? Well, I use this term. What does it mean? The standard definition for stress is the disruption of the body's homeostasis or a state of disharmony in response to a real or perceived threat or challenge. The threatening or challenging situation we would know as a stressor. Now, when a person encounters a stressor, the body prepares to respond to their challenge in different ways. The autonomic nervous system and endocrine systems respond by producing chemicals such as norepinephrine, epinephrine, and cortisol. And the result of this hormone production is a cascade of physiological responses that make up the stress response. So epinephrine and norepinephrine basically, what do? They increase heart and respiration rates. They increase perspiration, that's the word, yeah, and also energy production as well. There's also a suppression of the immune system. There's a production of alpha endorphin, which is the body's natural painkiller, and increased acuity of the senses as well. And all of these make up our flight or flight response, which the body uses as preparation for stresses. Now, virtually any form of exercise, whether it be aerobics or yoga, can act as a stress reliever. If you're not an athlete, and even if you're out of shape, a little amount of exercise can still go a long way to reducing our stress. But there's also plenty of other good reasons to be physically active for the brain as well, which include reducing the odds of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. Also, just exercise in general. You might want to lose weight, lower your blood pressure, prevent depression, or even just look better. All of these are going to have an impact on the brain. Okay, so from exercise, we can help the brain out in so many different ways. Whether that's just from our feelings or actually, increasing brain function. Another one, which is really fascinating, is, especially for me, I know I've had this before, is brain fog, which usually comes with age. And exercise changes the brain in ways that protect memories and thinking skills. One study done by the University of British Columbia found that regular aerobic exercise, the kind that gets your heart and sweat glands pumping, appeared to boost the size of something called the hippocampus, which is an area in the brain involved in verbal memory and learning. Resistance training and muscle toning exercises didn't have the same results as aerobic exercise such as walking, running and yoga. This finding actually came at a really critical time because researchers say that there's one new case of dementia is found every 4 seconds globally, and by the year 2050 they reckon that 115 million people will be suffering from dementia, which, as I've just explained, exercise can help a lot with. So the strongest evidence suggests that physical activity might also help with alleviating the symptoms of mild or moderate depression, as well as be beneficial for alcoholism and substance abuse. And this happens from improving self-image. As I mentioned, if you want to look fitter, exercise does a great job of that. Social skills, just by going out and having a light jog, you're able to improve your brain to memory and verbal skills, as I just said, which will in turn improve our social skills, cognitive functioning, and also symptoms of anxiety as well. I know if I'm feeling very anxious, I'll always go for a gym session or I'll go for a light run, and it always makes me feel better after it. As we all know, it was something called the runner's high, which I'm going to get onto in a second. But I thought, first of all, let me go into a bit more detail about some of these. I've said a lot of things here, so let's go through those one by one and really bullet point why exercise is helping the brain. So first of all, exercise lowers stress impacts. We know that exercise isn't a direct, help for stress. It's not a direct solution for stress, but it does help to pacify the experience of stress. It decreases stress hormone. It doesn't decrease the stress hormones, but it does decrease the number of stress receptors in the hippocampus, as I mentioned. Reducing stress receptors in turn minimizes the effect of the stress hormones on the brain, and then therefore will decrease the amount of stressful experiences that you have in your day-to-day life. Now, the phenomenon that we know as runner's high is another stress-related benefit of exercise. Working out stimulates the release of endorphins in your brain, which is obviously the brain's feel-good neurotransmitters that then act on opiate receptors in the brain, which create the blissful feeling that you experience after having a run. And this is also paired with the reduction of feelings of anxiety and depression. So therefore, exercise is an indirect helper towards stress. This only applies, as I said earlier, for aerobic exercises. So, gardening and getting out of the house and having a light walk are two excellent ways, if you haven't got time to go to the gym, to get that aerobic exercise. Some studies found that regrowth is stronger if you also like the activity that you're doing. So find something that you enjoy doing. As I said, gardening's a great one. It doesn't just have to be going to the gym and going for a run on the treadmill. Whatever aerobic exercise you can do, whether you have a dog and you go for a dog walk, or you just go out with your partner on a nice little stroll. If you enjoy the activity that you're doing, these studies have found that that's going to have a greater impact on the stress that you're feeling. So how much of this activity do we need to do to actually find the benefits from it? Studies found that briskly walked for 1 hour twice a week to around 120 minutes of this moderate intensity exercise is the recommendation. We want to be doing 120 minutes of something over the week to have this effect on reducing stress. You can even go up to 150 minutes a week to get the greatest amount of effect from it. And if that seems daunting, just start with a few minutes to begin with. Just get out of the house on a 5-minute walk. And once you get moving, we always find it becomes much easier once you develop that habit of leaving the house and doing a touch of exercise. Before you know it, it's going to be increasing. We're going to be progressing really well. And then eventually we're going to hit that 120 minutes. Just start off small, work our way up. We can just do, as I said, 5 minutes to begin with, add on 10 minutes weekly. and before you know it, you'll be hitting that 120-minute threshold without a problem. Now, exercise and the brain. How does exercise directly affect the brain? Exercise helps memory and thinking through a number of direct and indirect means. The benefits of exercise come directly from its ability to reduce insulin resistance. It reduces inflammation and stimulates the release of growth factors and chemicals in the brain, which then develop healthy brain cells, and also the growth of new blood cells within the brain, and even the abundance and survival of new brain cells as well. Indirectly, exercise improves mood and sleep. It reduces stress and anxiety, as I've already aforementioned, which are problems that we would perceive as cognitive impairment. So if we can fix that cognitive impairment, we're then going to make the brain feel better, in turn making you feel better. Another study found that parts of the brain that control thinking and memory, which is done at the prefrontal cortex and the medial temporal cortex, have greater volume in people who exercise versus people who don't. Even more exciting is the finding that engaging in a program of exercise of moderate intensity over 6 months to a year is associated with an increase in the volume of these selected brain regions as well. So exercise pretty much improves brain quality, which, as I've already mentioned, will then decrease the risk of any brain disease or heart disease as well. Now, another really cool bit of information that I found out when I was doing the preparation for this Facebook Live was it can make your brain more flexible, which basically means that neuroplasticity, which is the ability of your brain to change the way you learn and experience new things, which young people generally have a better grasp on than older people. Basically, scientists believe that both aerobic and weight training seem to be able to help this neuroplasticity and make you more flexible, or avoid plastic brains, which is really exciting actually. Now, I previously mentioned this, but it does help avoid dementia as well. People who don't exercise as much are more likely to get Alzheimer's disease or other forms of dementia, and that's because exercise helps prevent many of the things that are linked to dementia, such as obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, and depression. Okay, so those 4 things exercise helps reduce. But exercise has a direct effect as well. Scientists can actually see more white and grey brain matter and less diseased tissues in brains that exercise. So yeah, just lots of different benefits for the brain from exercise, which is really exciting, and it gives you all the more reason to start exercising as soon as possible. And if you're really struggling with that, come down to the clinic, let us help you out, create a exercise plan, and let us help you on your way to getting a better brain and in turn loving life even more. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, please pop them down now. I'll stay on for another minute, and if not, thank you all for listening, and I will see you at the next Facebook Live. All right, thank you very much, guys. I will see you at the next one.